Well, his receivers coaches have not been particularly helpful. I mean, Aubrey Hill had to resign because of the NCAA sanctions with Miami, or he was implicated in the NCAA probe into Miami, and then it was Bush Hamdan, I think it was the he's not he doesn't have the resume to be the Florida Gators wide receivers coach. He just doesn't. And then Joker Phillips comes in for a year, and then a little change at the end of that. You don't have any stable. You don't have a stable wide receivers coach to stay with the kids and work with them for more than a year at a time, because they're either resigning for being in trouble, or they're not adequate. Bush Hamden's a grad assistant. Who is he to work with guys like Andre DeBose or LaTroy Pittman or Quentin Dunbar, Solomon Patton? You know.
I covered Chris Lick. I like Chris Lick. I think he's a good guy with a good mind. I think he was thrust in a very, very unfair situation. But my thing is, look around at these guys. Look at all of them. Not just one or two. Look at all of them, and then ask yourself, where did they win? Where did they win? Look around. I think you'll be stunned. Where did they win? Where did they really, legitimately have big-time national title type seasons with assistant coaches? There are a bunch of guys on this group of assistant coaches who may never get another coaching job again. It may take them a while. It's going to take them a while. And they're not going to be at a Power 5 conference, most of them. I think he went out and thought one former player for Will Muschamp, the NFL, told me his greatest problem is he's stubborn in his ways. He will not adjust. Mm-hmm. And I think he went out to try to make his mark and hire his guys that he thought were going to be the guys, and he screwed up in that way. He needed to go and get some people who knew what they were doing and get out of the way.
Yep, that's it. And it's funny. I remember when he was first hired, within a couple of months, and everyone's trying to get their hands on his story for Muschamp. Someone printed something interesting on ESPN. I forget who did it. Might have been Chris Lowe. He said that Will Muschamp did not want to hire yes men. He wanted to hire guys for their opinions. He wanted to have discussions with them. He said, I welcome disagreement. I don't know everything, I admit that, and I want to hire guys who do. And here we are 3.5 years later, and that has not happened. So that is...
Well, he's still running 160-pound running back into the middle of the line.
Yeah, to try to... Because once every 90 times, he'll break it for a long touchdown run, right? Is that it? 2% of the time, he'll break it off?
I've said the same thing. I've probably had 200 different guys ask me this on radio shows. At Florida, in the state of Florida, it comes down to, and this is where Urban Meyer, love him or hate him, was a genius. It's mismatches. It's finding a guy at a position that no one else can match up with. And that's what he was the master of. And that's the thing that won so many times for Spurrier and for Meyer. And running the ball into the middle of the line, running bubble screens, running everything you can to be conservative at the University of Florida, a state that produces nothing but track stars, is stupid. It was stupid in the beginning. It took him 3 years to finally he had to have somebody at the University of Florida say you're stupid. And he's still, to this day, at this moment, at 3-3, running the same kind of stuff. If you don't have a creative offensive coordinator who throws the ball all over the field, you don't take advantage of your speed, if you come to Florida, you're stupid. And it's that simple.
Yeah, there it is. You just put it out there. A lot of things he does wrong. That's only one of them, really. I see a laundry list of other problems. I mean, they're undisciplined. They turn the ball over like crazy. They penalize themselves out of key situations. But in any case, I mean, look, none of us really think that Muschamp's going to be back next year, right? We all say he's not coming back, correct?
No, he's not going to be back. And the only coaches that believe him, I mean, Brad Long will be in Gainesville if everybody's smart. But beyond that, that's a great point on the assistants. I mean, Mike Summers is one guy that a lot of people have given credit, but we can't pass protect. And almost every one of his last 3 or 4 stops, the coaching staff has been fired. So that was his answer for offensive line coach.
I think you need radical change. I think they all need to go. Period. Get rid of all of them. I think the reality of it is, it's been 2 years and they're poor. I mean, I'm not saying. I am just a frustrated observer as a journalist to watch this stuff and have people lie to me like I'm an idiot. This is a poor. And you talk about turnovers, penalties, drop catches. That's assistant coaches. Each and every one of those individual assignments has failed as a position coach. And people can roll their eyes. They can say whatever they want. This staff has failed him. And I think they need radical change. Radical change. I wouldn't bring one of them back.
And like you said, it's Muschamp's fault for hiring them. But anyway, let's move on now. We all think he's not coming back for various reasons. So the next question is, well, you want to fire Muschamp, who's the next head coach. And there is a long list of people who I would consider. However, I'm not sure that a lot of them would take the job at Florida. I mean, there are some names that people are they're dreaming. I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to get them to Florida. So I'm going to ask each of you. First we'll go Neil, then we'll go Dave. If you are Jeremy Foley, who is the first phone call you make to somebody who you think has a legitimate chance of saying yes?
I have the same answer as Paul Flacco. That's not wrong. And people have laughed, and some people haven't. But I'm not even a five-long guy, but I mean, the guy that understands football in the state of Alabama. I have a family that went to Auburn and a journalism degree from this university in Gainesville, and I think that there's a distinction between being the head coach at Little Brother and the head coach at the University of Florida. Florida is a better job. It will always be a better job, and it's just a matter of money and whether or not Cliff wants to be in Nick's shadow. But that's the first phone call you make. If he says no, you made the phone call.
Fair enough. How about you, Dave?
Which one?
Well, no, the first one. We're going to go into second and third options a little bit later, but your first call that you make to someone you think will say yes.
I think you make a double secret private wink wink. Don't even tell your wife call Charlie Strong. Period.
Really? And may I ask why?
Because I have dealt with Charlie Strong many times, and I'm telling you right now, he can recruit Florida like no one else in this state can. These coaches come in here, and they brag about what they're signing and what they're getting. Strong went out and got every player that Florida really needed for their defense and many for their offense. He's undoubtedly beyond. You'll read stuff, you'll hear stuff, whatever. Charlie Strong spends about 3 or 4 weeks out of the year traveling through Florida and raking in recruits, and that's what it's like Vic said. It's all about the Jimmies and the Joes. I don't care who coaches what. If you can't get the talent, I mean the premier talent, the talent right now that's going to Florida State. He can come in and immediately take it all out. But he's obviously not common, and I'm pretty much just joking. But there's nobody that can recruit the state of Florida like Charlie Strong, and I think he showed that when Louisville played Florida in a ball game. He gets what he needs, and he knows how to do it. And he's kind of an institution in the state of Florida. The way you find out about Charlie Strong is go find a high school coach. Right, talk to them and see how they react. That's like I said, Ron Zook is the Jimmy and the Joes, and I think they need to go get the Jimmys and Joes because they don't have a high time.
Well, that's a fair point about the Jimmys and Joes, and Charlie Strong is on my list. I mean, he's not number 1 or 2, but he's definitely on it. If I were Jeremy Foley, I think the first calls I would make are to the top-notch guys, because the worst that happens is they say no. And top-notch guys, I mean guys like Kevin Sumlin or Chip Kelly or Art Briles, because the worst that happens, they say no, you thank them for their time, and then you hang up the phone. And on the off chance they say yes, and there is a chance you could lure them to Florida. I mean, Kevin Sumlin's Aggies right now struggling without Johnny Manziel, just got walloped by Alabama. You never know. They could come to Florida, and they could install their offenses, and boom, there's instant success. But I'm not assuming that they're going to say yes. So once you get through that level, first call I would make is Dan Mullen. And I know there is some criticism there. He's very attached to the state of Mississippi. I get that. But he has been at Florida. He was there for 4 years. He's known to run spread. He develops exciting offenses, which is definitely a welcome change. The thing I point to is that there are very low expectations at Mississippi State. Okay, they don't expect to win national championships. They don't expect to go 10-2 every year. Their hopes are to make a bowl game and to beat Ole Miss. Okay, he's 4-1 in the Egg Bowl. He's made a bowl game every year since his first year. His winning percentage is better at Mississippi State than Will Muschamp's is at Florida. So he does very well for the low expectations that are there. Mississippi State is arguably, I would say they are the least prestigious program in the SEC West, probably below Arkansas and Ole Miss. And he does very well with that. And he might be the best coach in their history. He might be. I mean, he's taken them to roughly, I think it's a quarter of the bowl games they've ever gone to. And he's built them from zero, and he's young, and he could stay for a long time. So if we could get him, and talk about recruiting, he could recruit the state of Florida too. Maybe not quite as well as Strong, but he is a very solid recruiter. So if you get him, he could stay for a long time, and he could build a foundation at Florida.
I will say this, Dan usually ends up about between 30 and 35 or 40 on the so-called, the ratings list for recruits, and so he does a lot with a little. He is what I'm talking about. He develops players. Dan Mullet's going to Michigan.
He's going to Michigan. Well, that's why I make the call. You got to try.
I like Dan. I dealt with him. He's a good guy. He knows he's good. He'll let you know he's good. But I think a little bit more realistic. And I'll be honest with you, I cringe when I say this, but Rich Rodriguez may be a very interesting poll for them because he seems to fit in the modern day SEC. I like him. I can't tell you why. I don't even know why. But I think your other Hail Mary, since I'm just a Hail Mary guy with Charlie Strong, is, do you think Spurrier might come back?
Well, let's discuss that. Go ahead. So, Neil, why don't you tell me if you think Spurrier would come back? Because I'm very interested in this.
I don't think that Jeremy would ask him to come back.
Yeah.
But I think nothing would make Steve more happy than riding the Gainesville on a white horse after not getting interviewed and say something in his first press conference along the lines of, well, Tigger better get first down than he did it. So they had to call me, or something like that. I mean, can you imagine if at that press conference Tony sitting there with his tail between his legs, Steve? I mean, oh, goodness gracious. I mean, talk about a journalist's dream.
Well, if it were to happen, it would have to be handled very, very delicately. I mean, Foley would have to be very careful to just stroke his ego repeatedly. It would have to be that kind of thing where Foley just sits down and says, all right, look, the job's yours. You want it? No interview. Take it or not. And then I think Spurrier would say yes, but I don't think Jeremy Foley would do that.
Here's the thing about Jeremy, because I've dealt with these things, these nightmares through the years. And I remember getting a call one night from a friend of mine who covered the Saints. He said, guess where Jeremy Foley is? And I just said, oh, God, please, no. And he said he's having dinner at Ron Zook's house, which completely just stunned us all. Now, Meyer was predictable. That was a little bit predictable. But it just seems like you cannot predict what Jeremy Foley is going to do in a lot of these hires in different sports. He tends to think outside the box sometimes. I mean, nobody knew about Will Muschamp. That shocked everybody. And you can't really... There's somebody out there he's got his eye on. I know he does. And I'll tell you this, when he hired... One of his most recent hires, I believe it was Muschamp. One of the guys he had his eye on was Kevin Sumlin. Whenever Kevin Sumlin was still at Houston, he liked him. He liked him a lot. So it's not like the guy is not a fool. In fact, quite the opposite. He'll take your lunch money and eat your dinner. Jeremy Foley knows what he's doing. He's not stupid. In fact, he's way, way, way more intelligent than me. And that's the thing. You can't really predict where his mind is going right now. But trust me, it's working. He's got something in mind. He's got some angle in mind. It's probably nothing we even mentioned right now.